We have a huge signing and a huge trade to announce between the Montreal Canadiens and the Calgary Flames. We'll discuss today's news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some pretty significant news. Of course, the news has broke down for a few hours. You may be aware of this. Of course, before I could get this video made, I was in an area without really any good cell reception. It's been a while getting this done here, but we have a major signing in Calgary, which has led to a huge trade and a salary cap dump as well. Nazem Kadri is now officially a Calgary Flame. Now, he's been rumored to be a New York Islander for some time, although we did have reports indicating that it was not 100% finalized done deal. It was essentially a case of Kadri and the Islanders basically having a bit of a handshake agreement, and that the Islanders were trying to clear cap space to make it official. Well, of course, I'm assuming here that Kadri got tired of waiting around, and Blue wasn't able to make it happen. So the Flames and Tree Living offered him the same deal, 7 years at $7 million a season, and he's off to Calgary. They were able to clear the space, which we'll discuss here in a moment, to make it happen. Now, of course, Brad Tree Living is the ultimate multitasker here today. The summer of Tree Living continues. Obviously, what a massive turnaround. Like, this guy continues to make these blockbuster moves. Losing Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, a lot of people had them written off, and a lot of us wondered, are they going to have to rebuild? Like, is this team going to have anything left? What's it going to be like next year? Now they got Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, and Nazem Kadri. Now the conversation has completely changed to, are they a better team than they were before? Only time will tell how the on-ice product, produces and sees here, but ultimately this is a pretty significant trade. Now, in Tree Living's case, it's also his birthday today. Brad turned 53, so quite a present to sign a top player like Kadri to a long-term deal. And he's also on the road in Texas getting one of his children settled in for college or university down there as well. So obviously, like, he's doing a lot here on the go. Of course, he has a staff that works with him, and his AGMs, I'm sure, played a huge role in this too. But certainly a massive day for the Calgary Flames. So Nazem Kadri goes to Calgary on a 7-year contract. They've been really the only other team mentioned here in the mix besides the Islanders for some time. But many believe that the Flames were not offering the 7-year deal that the Islanders were, which is why it was more likely he was going to Long Island. And maybe that was the case. And maybe this is something that they shifted gears here, finding an opportunity to make a cash dump to create some space, that they said, you know what, maybe let's do the 7 years to get it done. And that's how things could have ended up going down here. But ultimately, Kadri ends up in Calgary. I know some people thought he didn't want to be a Calgary Flame after nixing a trade there from Toronto a few years back before he ended up in Colorado. And like I said, I don't think it had anything to do with it at all. He just wanted to stay in Toronto, and that's all that was about. Had nothing bad at all when it comes to the city of Calgary or its fans or anything to do of that scenario as well. So nice to see them get some players who want to go there and commit there after having some players who had the opposite and didn't want to be a part of the city and the team moving forward there. So this is terrible news for the New York Islanders and the quiet, eerily quiet summer of Lamoriello and the Islanders here continues, which is terrible. But as you see here in a moment, the price is high to create some salary cap space. So ultimately here, the big trade that comes with this is the Calgary Flames then trade Sean Monahan to the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, they also throw in a first-round pick, and they also get either a third or fourth rounder in 2025. Now, there's a whole whack of conditions on these picks. I've never seen anything like it. The conditions on this is absolutely insane. But the Habs are guaranteed to get a first rounder. It's just exactly which pick it's going to be. It's like this whole different algorithm that's going to have to figure things out. So I'll show you on the screen from Cap-Friendly all the conditions. But they're either going to get a first round pick from the Flames in 2024, 2025, or 2026. It may be a Calgary Flames pick. It could be the Florida Panthers first rounder that they are sending for Matthew Tkachuk as well. So it's not a given on which one, because there's a whole bunch of conditions that have to play out here as to which will determine which one it is. But sometime between 2024 and 2026, the Montreal Canadiens are guaranteed to have an extra first round pick from the Flames for completing this deal. And like I said, they also get, there's conditions on it too, but they're either getting a third or a fourth in 2025 as well. Of course, Monahan is, I believe, expected to be healthy this year, making around 6.374, I believe it is. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's had multiple hip surgeries, not the same player he used to be. At one point, he was a shoot first, 30-goal centerman, of course, playing with Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny was the playmaker. Monahan was more of the goal scorer. They were a great 1-2 tandem. And obviously, it worked out. He had some great years there. But times have changed. His health has changed. And we'll see. Now, the Montreal Canadiens were able to facilitate this trade because of their pool of LTIR money that they're able to expand here, which we'll probably talk about a little bit further detail probably tomorrow. But it looks like Carey Price won't be playing. So we've been wondering what his status is. So without his contract being on the books and going into the LTIR pool, that certainly expands things quite a bit now. But at the same time, adding Monahan to the mix, they have a lot of forwards there in Montreal. They have some young guys that I'm sure they're going to want to get ice time for and play in the NHL, and they've got a lot of vets there, some of which only have 1 or 2 years left. I believe the plan with Monahan is to try to get him in the lineup, see what they can do to resuscitate his career, and then if his play justifies it, they'll move him at the deadline to give him a chance to go to the playoffs and hopefully compete for a Stanley Cup, and at the same time get yet another asset in return. So basically they're renting some cap space to the Flames for either all or part of the season, probably only part of the year. If Monahan does okay, then they'll be able to move him later. They get a couple of picks out of the Flames in exchange for future considerations too. Like there's nothing going to Calgary. And then at the same time, they can get maybe an additional draft pick or something, prospect or something else for Monahan down the road. So this is a great use of cap space by Ken Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens. Ken Hughes did talk about it in a bit of a press conference, and I do want to elaborate on the Price situation separately in a different video, give it its own dedicated conversation, since it is a big deal and he's such a big time player for Montreal for so long. I want to talk about that in a separate video, but yeah, having him not be expected to play allows them to take on the money, allows them to get a bunch of extra assets. The amount of picks they've acquired now is pretty good. Like they've got a stockpile here for the future between already good looking prospects and draft picks that are already in the mix here. So that's great for them. It's a good move. And then it helps Calgary free up the space. The difference between Monahan's contract and Kadri isn't much. Only around $500,000 or so, just slightly more than that. So they're able to make that work as well. There was some speculation earlier today if Montreal was making a subsequent move or not, and they said that wasn't the case, at least not at the moment, given the LTIR pool that they're expected to have. And then at the same time, with the Calgary Flames, you still wonder too, and I guess we'll wait and see if they're going to extend Mackenzie Weegar. I know a lot of people are still watching that situation because they do have a lot of blue liners. I think they're still technically okay cap-wise, so they don't have to make a move here, but with the number of defensemen they have, you think it still might be a possibility that a trade could come sometime before the start of the season. But again, like I know we've talked about the summer of Pierre in Ottawa, and you have to think that outside of Dorion, Treliving's having just as good, maybe even better, probably better, really. If you think about the blockbuster deals he's been involved in, they're even more significant. And only because a lot of it too is because he was kind of forced into it, like with the Matthew Tkachuk trade. Like, it's not something he wanted to do, but talk about making good out of a bad situation. They've done extremely well. The only difference here is that they are an older team now. Obviously, Gaudreau and Huberdeau, for example, swap one out for the other. Not a great deal of difference in age. It's only a matter of, I can't remember their exact birth dates, but I know it's less than a year. It's not much at all. But then, of course, you throw in Nazem Kadri over Matthew Tkachuk. You get that same kind of snarl and grit and not the same level of offense. I don't think, it's fair to expect Kadri to be an 80, 90-point player consistently every year. He's only, done it once, right? Like, he was not that player before, but he was also playing a bigger role, and he'll get that opportunity in Calgary too. So I think we're going to see somewhere in between what he was last year, but maybe not quite to that level, but more than what he was in the past. And I think he can still thrive well into his early and mid 30s here. Because like I said, when he played in Toronto for a long time, he was he was not getting a lot of the even top minutes. Like, he was a third-line player at times, second-line player at times, rarely got PP1, whereas in Colorado in the beginning, too, same sort of thing. He was a secondary player, but then they had enough injuries this year and in time, other big-name players missing time, but he played top 6 consistently all the time, was getting PP1 time, playing with the better, stronger offensive players, and look what happened, right? So we could see a similar explosion in Calgary, where obviously Kadri and Lindholm will be the top 2 centers, and he's going to have some pretty darn good wingers to play with. So we could still see, I think, fair to say, maybe even if it's a 75-point Kadri instead of 80+, that's still pretty darn good and good bang for the buck when it comes to the money. So I think this is a great move for the Flames. They move Monahan. He gets a chance to resuscitate his career. The Habs continue to stockpile assets. It's good for everybody. So let me know your thoughts on this news down in the comments. Islanders fans especially, I want to know your thoughts. Are you good with this, the fact that they're not stuck on a 7-year deal with Kadri? Are you upset that they didn't get Kadri because they haven't done anything else really substantial to bring anything in to help that team? If you're a Flames fan, I want to know how you feel about Kadri. And on the Habs side, let me know as well. Taking on a player like Monahan, to me, it's a good situation for them. So let me know your thoughts. We'll talk about it in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.